I'm Alex Foster. I'm from IMSM. I'm the Customer Success Manager. And today we've got Nick Henderson-Mayo from VinciWorks and Richard Bradley from Bulletproof. So thank you both for joining. We're going to get straight into it. So first and foremost, we'll have Nick from VinciWorks. So Nick's going to give a little presentation, go through everything from his side. You'll get some real good insights as to what we do at VinciWorks and how we can help you with AI, with human errors in cybersecurity, tips, tricks, and how you can improve that awareness overall. So, Nick, I'd love a little introduction from yourself first, and then we'll get into it. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the head of compliance here at VinciWorks, and VinciWorks has been around for about 25 years, working on supporting first of all law firms, but then we've expanded out to work with all sorts of organizations all around the world actually on compliance. We also offer e-learning solutions for compliance, software for compliance, but my main focus is on looking at new regulations and what those mean for us. And that's a webinar is coming at a great time because we have the UK's new Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill coming sooner than we probably think, sooner than we might be prepared for. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, then, Nick, so I've given you the reins, so you should be able to present now. And for everyone that's listening in and can see us, by all means, just put something in the chat. We will do a real quick poll as well, because like we said, this is the second one, so it'll be really good to see if there's anything that's evolved from that first iteration. So by all means, put something in the chat and we'll do a little poll as well. So Nick, over to you.
Thank you very much. And also, as you said there, Alex, if you get any questions or any thoughts as we about this topic as we go through, do feel free to ask them, and we'll try and answer some of your questions as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. So it was published back in 2025, and is expected to come into force some point during this year. I think probably before the summer we'll see it. We actually have a guide to all of the important parts of the legislation that you need to know about. If you're able to scan the QR code up on the screen there, you can get access to that guide, or we're going to send it out as a link after the webinar. So either way, you'll get a chance to read through that guide and see what's the latest. So at the core, this legislation is looking to modernize and expand on the Network and Information Systems, NIS, regulations from 2018. But obviously 2018 was quite a long time ago when it comes to cybersecurity, and those have become a bit out of date. So this new bill reflects this reality that cyber incidents today are much more systemic risks. They can affect really significant critical infrastructure, healthcare, energy, cloud, entire supply chains even. And so this new legislation is designed to raise the level of resilience across those vital sectors of the economy. So the main things it's going to do is amend the NIS regulations, but also is going to expand the scope and introduce what's called critical supplier designations. So we're going to have reforms also on incident reporting and more enforcement, along with potential cost recovery mechanisms as well, which are going to be quite significant. And it essentially gives also the government new regulation making powers. We're going to have a statement of strategic priorities from the government that regulators will have to give regard to. We'll have a code of practice framework, and also new abilities for the government to intervene in particular cybersecurity issues, particularly where there's national security issues at play. So really this bill does two big things at once. First of all, it's going to widen the who is regulated for cybersecurity in the UK, but also strengthen the government's ability to intervene. Now, one of the most important changes is scope. So under this current NIS regime, operators of essential services and also just certain digital service providers are the ones that are regulated. And many organizations that were actually previously outside of cyber regulation will fall into it once this legislation becomes law. And so anyone really that's got a connection to essential services or those critical parts of the economy is going to find themselves having to comply with the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. So if you are a managed service provider, if you're a data center, if you're even an electricity controller, you're going to have to think about cybersecurity in a much more compliance-focused way. And not really just those delivering those services, but if you're involved in the ecosystem, if you're involved in the supply chain of those companies, you might find yourself as part of the compliance ecosystem really for this legislation.
Yeah.
So let me just take briefly through some of the key additions here. So MSPs are a major addition to the legislation, which we didn't see in the previous NIS regulation. Medium and large MSPs are going to be regulated, and ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, will be the regulator for them. Now, small MSPs, and that's defined by staff numbers and potentially turnover as well. Things if you're under 50 staff or under 10 million euros in turnover, you will be exempt from the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. But if you are in scope, the duties are pretty familiar from the what's in NIS. But risk management, incident reporting, supply chain oversight, those kind of things that we're kind of used to when it comes to cybersecurity regulation, or some of us will be used to that. If you're newly regulated, you might not have been so used to that. But what changes now is that those obligations will directly apply to organizations that sit behind the scenes of some of these critical services. And the practical effect here is that MSPs can't just rely on customer contracts to kind of manage their cyber risks. They will be directly supervised, and they will be required to implement proportionate risk management measures and also have incident reporting obligations, which is really the key element here. So let's have a look also at data centers who are going to come into scope here. They will be treated as operators of essential services when they meet certain size thresholds up there on the screen, and that reflects really the role that many data centers have as elements of critical national infrastructure. And a cyber incident that happens in one of these data centers can obviously cascade across dozens or hundreds of organizations, and we don't want that to happen. And the bill actually also introduces a specific definition of a data center incident. So an incident is going to be something that has had or could have had or is likely to have a significant impact on the continuity or the operation of the security of the systems that the data center uses. So it's really I think for the first time potentially a legislated definition of what counts as an incident, and it's very broadly drafted, and that means the reporting threshold is really low, so it can capture a very wide amount of risk, potentially even power cuts. Like, this is very broad in terms of the risk it's capturing, and those operators are going to need a really robust cyber risk management plan in place, and they're going to have to notify both regulators and also customers when these incidents, or if these incidents occur. So if you're a customer of a data center, if you have data centers immediately in your supply chain, you're going to have to be prepared for what happens if the data center has had an incident. What is your plan? Because I think that's the critical part of this legislation. It's not just those that are directly regulated or legislated for as part of this legislation. It's everyone that's connected in these supply chains that are going to have to figure, well, if one of these people goes offline, if they have an incident, how is that going to affect us?
It's almost, Nick, like trying to prevent the domino effect, isn't it? Because
Absolutely.
every data centers are critical in our everyday life now, isn't it? It's a little bit different from 2018. It was only 8 years ago, but everything's different now. So some people will be going, oh, I've got more admin to do, more homework. It's because the ramifications are so severe that we've got to stop it. We've got to prevent it as much as we can, haven't we? For a little bit more work, it's so important that we do that. So Yeah, carry on, Nick. But that's just it's vital, isn't it? It's
No,
absolutely
yeah,
vital.
you're absolutely right, Alex. That just really brings us greatly to our next point, which is around the ability to designate certain suppliers as critical suppliers. So this is another big innovation in the legislation that I think ties directly to your point, is that the government can now decide, or will be able to decide, that certain suppliers whose disruption could have that big domino impact can be designated. And if that happens, and if you end up being one of those suppliers who has that designation, you will have direct cybersecurity duties, direct reporting obligations, potentially that you never had before. And what's really significant here is it allows regulators, mainly the ICO, but potentially on the actions of ministers as well, to directly step into the supply chain where that risk or disruption could have a serious impact on either essential or digital services. I'm going to bring in a few examples as we go through, but that could potentially be supermarkets could be designated as essential services there. Petrol stations, like there's a really wide array of businesses that could be captured by this. And if you are potentially involved in some of those high risk areas, you really have to think about, is this going to impact you, and what you're going to have to do about it? Because actually the UK's legislation here goes further than potentially any other country has gone so far. We're not just relying on customers to manage the risk. This law is going to give regulators themselves, the ICO itself, to step in where third-party risk could potentially become something nationally significant. So think of it this way: if you imagine a catastrophic failure of either yourself or your suppliers, if you can imagine that hitting the headlines, most likely you're going to be covered under this, and it's going to be a good idea to start thinking about it. And I want to talk a little bit about incident reporting, because it is going to be another critical element of the law. So under the new rules, you'll have to be able to report, or an incident will be reportable if it's had or likely to have a significant impact in relation to the UK. And so that formulation, this likely to have formulation that's written into the draft law, really makes the trigger point a lot bigger. So we're looking at, really have to judge things early and not look backwards to do a retrospective assessment. And there's a two-stage process for that kind of incident reporting. The initial notification has to happen within 24 hours, and then a full report within 72 hours. And we're talking 24 hours. I'm not saying one day. It's not one business day. There's a clock ticking down, and that's when you have to be able to do those reports. So for yourself, as a potentially even a smaller organization, if you're captured by this, you're going to have to potentially look at who's going to report that, who's going to be on shift to do that, who has the phone number or the contact details to potentially report to the National Cybersecurity Centre within those timeframes. Because what can often happen is find you have a risk, something is dealt with, identified, hopefully that will pass and won't be critical. But when they start investigating the how and what happened, if you've missed those deadlines or you didn't have a process in place to deal with those deadlines, then that's where you might end up on the not very nice end of regulatory action.
It's damage limitation as well, isn't it? If we
Definitely,
stop the rot,
definitely.
let's get something done ASAP. Yeah, before
Exactly,
it escalates.
and I think when it comes to cyber incident reporting, you don't want a wait and see approach. You don't want, well, let's see how this pans out. You
It
want to
might be,
report that very quickly.
yeah. Oh, it might just be that might be a bug. We don't know.
No,
We
definitely.
cannot
Always
afford.
better to report quickly when it comes to cyber than to wait. I mean, that's not necessarily true for every compliance incident, but for our purposes, definitely err on the side of reporting. And in the legislation, we also get a formal definition of what, or we will get a formal definition of what good cybersecurity looks like. There's going to be this code of practice. I mean, it's going to really align with things like ISO 27001, that sort of thing. So if you already have that, then you're unlikely to have to do a significant amount extra. And if you're on the fence of doing something like ISO, just do it. Like it's I know it can be a hassle for people. It can be hard work. It is hard work. But at the end of the day, if you fall into this category, even if you don't fall into the category, but I think if you fall into that category, do your ISO. It is really very, very little excuses left, I think, not to do something like that. Um, and just we touched there on that. There's a mandatory customer notification element as well for certain providers, meaning that you're going to have to tell your customers if there's an incident. I want to just quickly move on to extra powers for regulators. They will be able to inspect and monitor situations. So if you are designated, if you do fall directly under the law, you might actually end up with a visit from the ICO. It's happened to many organizations not connected to cybersecurity, but the ICO does have those FBI style windbreakers. They do like to put them on. They do like to turn up at people's doors at the crack of dawn and go in and look at things. So
Raid.
it is
Raging,
not,
yeah.
it is not outside the realm of possibility that this could happen. And then also we have something that, I mean, they're calling this the kind of flexibility, future proofing element of it. But essentially, what this means, the government themselves are going to be able to set strategic priorities on cybersecurity for regulators to deal with. That means ministers can decide. That means Parliament can decide what is a priority and not. And as we've seen in recent months, that they often are kind of driven by headlines. There's an issue with Grok, or there's an issue with SAI or DeepSeek or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's essentially written in to the legislation here, meaning that you do have to have a bit of awareness of what's going on in the world. Because let's say, I don't know, you decide that Grok or DeepSeek or one of these AI things is critical to your business or some new product. And what you're going to do if that gets banned? What are you going to do if that gets, if you have to do things, to do with that? That is really going to be a relevant factor. And just in these last few minutes, I wanted to go through a couple of examples that have happened and how it might change under the new bill. So we might remember from last year the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover. There was factories shut down. There was, production was halted. It costs billions potentially in lost productivity, and thousands of suppliers and smaller firms who were connected through Jaguar's supply chain were impacted. Now, under the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill, that whole process would have been a lot faster. And this is where the benefit of this legislation is that we would have hopefully been able to shut down the impact on that much quicker than I think ended up happening. Similarly with the Marks and Spencer's attack, it was offline for weeks and weeks, cost hundreds of millions. The Co-op also it was disrupted. Harrods was disrupted. I mean, there was no end to the misery that was
They're
caused with that
huge, yeah.
attack.
These aren't little. This isn't Kathy's Cakes that is doing a little bit of a turnover. These are huge FTSE 100 company. It's damaging, isn't it? JLR is near my area, West Midlands, and I felt the repercussions of that from some of my friends, which wasn't nice at all. And the jobs that they were allowing as well, and there's huge domino effects, isn't there? And it's really not nice. So we want to stop these. They might be huge companies, Nick, but we want to stop them because this is people's livelihood as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And actually, there was an even kind of more worrying element to this, or a story of the ransomware attack on a nursery in London. And that's where, there was personal data and personal data children. It was stolen. Thousands of people were affected. And then when we bring in personal sensitive data, when we bring in the data protection angle into cybersecurity, then we can get a much more significant impact of a cyber risk. And that's the sort of thing we absolutely want to avoid. Also, with public services, public sector, if you've got NHS exposure, if you've got exposure to the public sector, then you're much more likely to be impacted by what's going to happen with this bill, because it is going to expressly cover these critical suppliers. So if you could be a supplier of the NHS, and you can end up being designated under this. And that's going to the aim is to give regulators much more visibility, but essentially it's going to mean a lot more cyber work to do for many of us. And just to sum up there, that just to prepare for compliance, first of all, assess if you're going to be in scope or likely to be in scope. That's I think the first thing to think about. And even if you're not, identify the critical suppliers that you work with. Are you exposed to any MSPs, any data centers, any of these sorts of things? And then look at your own incident response plans. Can you handle the 24-hour and 72-hour timeline? Even if you're a small outfit, even if you only have a few people, have a plan in place. Have someone who you've got one person has got you've got an out hours phone number, something where if an incident happens, you're able to do the report, because that's going to be the critical element to avoid potential compliance, failure or fines in the future. And then finally, just be prepared for a much more engaged ICO, a much more engaged government when it comes to cybersecurity. It's really, really key to think. Hopefully, none of us on this webinar at least will think that cybersecurity is something we can put to one side. But if it's been that way in the recent past, if you feel like you're struggling to get your board or your CEO to really care about cybersecurity, now is the time to do that. None of us really can afford a cyber incident, and this new legislation, cybersecurity and resilience bill, is going to make that much more of a risk if we don't do that.
So Nick, sorry, I was literally just going to say that we've had a question. It's quite a lot of work and a lot of pressure within a short space of time for reporting. What would you say to that? Because I completely understand the question that's come about, but how would you answer that? That's a lot of work and a lot of pressure within a short space of time for reporting. So that reporting space, what do you think?
It is a lot for sure, but it's critical. We were working with a small cyber company. They only had 8 people working in the business, and they were doing some work on getting themselves prepared for a US focused regulation. And they had to, take all their phone numbers, and each one of them took a turn to be out of hours contact. And that's just, if you're covered, that's what you're going to have to do, because this is really the bit you can't. Not saying that you can let any of it kind of fall by the wayside. You can't, but being able to report quickly, even if it turns out to be nothing, even if it turns out to be a mistake, even if you then go the next morning and say, you know what, we figured it out, it was just a bug or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't want to end up in a situation where something happened and you didn't report, because that's where the penalties, that's where the fines, that's where the regulator is going to come down hard on you.
Exactly. We've got another question here. So, are there specific AI red flags that employees should be trained to recognize when evaluating suspicious messages?
Definitely. Plenty of red flags to be absolutely.
Yeah.
And these red flags are changing all the time. And that's why it's so important to keep training up to date. And I think particularly for things like cyber, for things like phishing, AI-enabled phishing, all these things, can't really just do it once a year and think everything's going to be, fine. I'd really be encouraging most people to be doing quarterly, maybe even monthly, many training things, emails, communications from higher up to say, here's a warning, here's something that we've seen. So you really have to make that kind of training very, very frequent.
And I've just put a poll up for those that are engaging with us. Are you planning to use AI to improve your cybersecurity training? We'd really appreciate it if you could give us your answers. Yes, you might already be using AI. You might be planning on using it. Maybe not yet. There's no plans. Not sure. I know some people have quite strong opinions of AI. It's the way that we're going, and Richard Bradley, you're going to elaborate a little bit more on AI, and it does come with its not negativities, but it's pros and cons, isn't it, to everything? But we've got to be aware of the cybersecurity risks, and with those risks, we offer the training, don't we, Nick? VinciWorks, we've got everything in house to be able to help you make sure that you're as prepared as possible. The answers are popping in, but a lot of people they're not sure yet, and it could be something that just evolves. And as long as you're aware that the Axiom Group, whether it's IMSM, Bulletproof, VinciWorks, we're here that we can offer this support and we can offer this guidance with cybersecurity. So, Nick, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Looking at the high the high profile issues, it's shocking sometimes, isn't it, to see what's happening in these what we think are huge establishments, but it just shows that it's there. It is a risk, and everyone needs to be aware, no matter how big or small you are. It's going to be, there's going to be those issues. Thank you, Nick. I'm conscious of time. So, Richard, it'd be great to hear from you. Could you give us a little introduction to yourself, what you do at Bulletproof, and then we can go from there.
Sure, thank you very much. So, Richard is introduced. I look after the data protection team at Bulletproof. Bulletproof provides quite a wide range of services in data protection, compliance, cybersecurity, both offensive and defensive, alongside some other standards, ISOs, Cyber Essentials, and things like that. Within my team, we provide things like data protection officer, DPO as a service, gap analysis, audits, implementations, and expert consultations on sensitive areas or new projects, new products, things like that. So a manufacturer wants to create a new technical product, which is going to involve AI, for example, we will support on things like data protection impact assessments and the like. And we also do training and events and things like that too.
Good stuff.
What I'm going to talk about is a bit of a continuation off the back of Nick, who I'm going to have a word with after for nicking a couple of my examples. However, I do have some others available to talk through. And one moment whilst I take control and put the right window on screen. One moment. And hopefully I'm sharing, yes, the slides. So as this suggests, we're going to talk first through some threats. So these are sort of classic definitions more than anything else, with a few updates that have emerged over recent years. We'll sort of run through them fairly quickly, one by one, but then we'll go through general classifications of incident and threat, but more practical than that, the other kinds of things that happen that are a risk when it comes to cybersecurity, information security, and data protection, with all of these things rolled together. So, first of all, we have malwares. This is the sort of classic viruses that have been going around for literally many decades. I do remember the first ones that were targeted at Amigas back around sort of 1990-ish, and immediately reveal myself to be pretty ancient at this point. And at the time, being very grateful that we didn't have an actual hard drive. That is how long ago this was. But that would have much more affected those who had, say, 1200 over a 500 or a 600. But you're not really interested in archaic technology today. So this is things like old forms of spyware, adware, the things that sort of generated lots of pop-ups, alongside other forms of malware that are more present today or more concerning more often today, like ransomware, encryption attacks, and things like that as well. For most of that time, malware have done things like destroying files that you had, or moving them so you didn't know where they were, or telling you that they were destroyed when they in fact weren't, or then disseminating things from your computer elsewhere, or weaponizing your computer for other purposes, like distributed denial of service attacks and things like that as well. Moving on, we have phishing emails. The stat I was looking at just a couple of weeks ago was quite horrifying, and I've been told that this now needs to be replaced with a new stat, which is even worse. So that stat was, I think it was just over 50% of businesses in the UK every 2 years have some form of successful or semi-successful phishing attack in that time frame. I believe it is now an actual majority fall in some way victim to that. In a practical sense, everything was, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 years. I don't have my notes on screen for that. So it is one of the most common ways that you can be subjected to things. Phishing doesn't just occur through emails, and we will go through some of the other formats of phishing, This is generally where people are looking for more information. They are, as the thing says, reeling, trying to get something out of you. So they will pretend to be someone, or they will be applying some kind of pressure to try to get you to execute an action, or trying to get you to give money in some way. One of the classic examples, fake invoice. The other would be CEO or very senior person in a company, CFO, go and buy the team these vouchers and then give me the details. But we want to do this by 12 o'clock, or those sorts of activities. They're trying to rush you into making a mistake and make you feel like you're going to do the wrong thing if you don't do what they say. In a nutshell, that is phishing. AI and deepfakes. So we'll talk a little bit more about this now, and this is also now being used in various forms of phishing, not just email, but the other forms too. So AI can be used to create on a larger scale more convincing phishing emails or voice messages, things like that, or even videos. When we're delivering training, we have some quite scary, convincing videos that have been produced. And it is very hard to spot without some additional expertise in terms of looking out for the memory problem. That is, when the camera pans, there is something that was on screen that isn't now, or vice versa. If there is traffic in the background that has gone behind the person and hasn't emerged the other side, or it has emerged from nowhere, and that sort of thing. If you're not actively looking for the clues, you won't notice generally. The other thing that you might notice is just shockingly good contrast ratios would be the other sort of general, that uncanny thing of
quite glossy.
Not quite.
Yeah, a little bit too perfect. Would you say that phishing emails have increased with AI? This is a question from one of our viewers.
Anecdotally, yes. I would like to see more concrete numbers on it, is what I would say. Certainly from discussions with our customer base at Bulletproof, so just from a data protection team, around 300 customers, the surveys on that show massively increased, and there are tells within those that do reveal that they're AI. Some of them are the classic tells, the M dashes and things like that. Now, some of those tells could also just be someone has done it in Microsoft Word and it's automatically created an M dash when you do space, dash, space, continue the sentence. But it's probably going to be AI with those sorts of things. And the others are these sort of it's not it sort of phrasing, and the other would be losing thread halfway through. So we've definitely seen through our customer base an increase on that. And I will say I've seen firsthand more of it over the last couple of years, certainly.
And are they getting more clever? Are they really finding loopholes there under a different guise?
They're getting closer to including more pertinent information, but sometimes still do silly things that a human probably wouldn't. Classically, we've got some structured email addresses for sort of team level or role titles and things like that, and it would be dear BP dash, and it's like, you didn't. That's not quite as clever on this one. So
nice try, yeah,
definitely. But on the deepfake front, we have seen like chief execs, chief financial officers, and similar being impersonated through this technology with a view to trying to get people to execute actions, to give them access, or to basically get them to transfer money, etc., on behalf of the company.
Not at a Coldplay concert. That wasn't a deep fake, was it? He should have said that. He should have said it was a deep fake. It wasn't him. Anyway, we digress. Carry on, Richard.
No problem. So next one is social engineering, and social engineering is, some of these things, they run together a little bit. Social engineering can be impersonation. It can be people want to be nice. Back in the Second World War, classic example of this was gangsters from the East End of London would often don ARP warden helmets and go around telling people to take stuff out of banks and put them in their van for them. And people would gladly help.
Yeah.
So yeah, because yes, there's been an explosion or something, so the front's gone. So they're basically looting, but getting the public to help because people wanted to help for the war effort. That continues to this day with the high vis and the clipboard, people double backing into an office, or saying, "Oh, could you just hold the door for me?" Then, "Oh, I've got a really important meeting. He's not put it in here yet, but it's going to be at 10 o'clock. I will need these resources. Could you get that for me?" And before you know it, they're on the Wi-Fi and they're starting to do actions. Social engineering is a skill that people learn. It's the same skill that magicians and so on learn for some elements of it. Sometimes it uses research, but in other cases it's more close to home. It is family members impersonating other family members. I think everyone knows people, or they themselves have spoken as if they are a family member when trying to deal with a very difficult company or government department at some point in their lives. That is an element of this. It's not complete, but it is a case of it. You yourself, probably the biggest threat to your company, in no small part because of the other threats, but also just through carelessness. So this is, leaving details underneath laptops, using passwords you've used for Yahoo or for MySpace or something 20 years ago. And I'm just terrified that that's 20 years ago.
I know.
Wow. Or it is rushing. It is BCC you're intending to use and you send CC, or you just believe something and deal with it and you think, oh, they must know this already, and the loose lips kind of problem. You click something you shouldn't have, and then the worst thing in the world is you're a bit worried about your job, so you keep quiet, which is a much bigger problem because then no one's going to be able to do anything to contain it. Social media. So social media, main problems here is you're very prone to putting a lot of personal information out there that people can use against you and your business. So again, when delivering training, we do a little bit of exercise to see what we can find from LinkedIn and things like that, and present a little bit of that in a fairly sensitive way as part of that training exercise to show you just what you could use. You can show which university and say, oh, I remember you from this and so on. Oh, of course, I can't believe I forgot you.
Yeah.
Which then tracks back to that social engineering. Or people post that they are going on holiday for 2 weeks, and so says, oh, I'm going to cover for that manager for 2 weeks while that shop is vacant or whatever it is.
It can be the vanity in us as well, can't it?
Yes.
It can be, look at these pictures. I can't believe you're doing this in this picture.
Boarding pass. Boarding pass is a really big one for that, and that can expose not just personal but corporate data. The coding on a boarding pass has a lot of key information you can use about that person's future bookings. A scary, but is it funny or not? I'm not entirely sure. Someone bragging about their Disney cruise on social media. They'd posted their ticket and so on social media, and of course someone contacted Disney and cancelled their holiday on their behalf.
Yeah. There was a celebrity that had a photo of a table, and on the table was their credit card, and you zoomed in and you could just see the details.
So the next one we've got is phishing and smishing. I think you can guess what these two are with a phone symbol next to it. So smishing is by text message, so the fake DPD or Every or Royal Mail text message. Your parcel's been held up, go here to rearrange or to pay the customs fee or whatever. And of course, in most cases, those are fake, and there are legitimate avenues to test those, and similarly voice phishing as well. So then competitors, small story here, an audit provider approximately 10 years ago, whenever they were going to tender submission meetings and so on, they were having a little look through the visitor book to see who was also seeing them that day or the day before, etc. And then they were contacting them afterwards to say that they weren't successful.
Oh dear.
So competitors are a threat. It is not to say that every one of your competitors is actively out to get you when it comes to these things, but they will, as in some will look for avenues to attack or to cause problems or to make capital out of mistakes that you make.
Yeah, want to trip you up, don't they? Business, not nice.
So then we have nation states. So the classic ones people talk about at the moment, Russia, North Korea, China, they have different motives depending on what they're dealing with. So some of it is just disrupting the whole country in different ways. So disruption to the NHS, disruption to as many businesses as they can. Some of it is just money. So North Korea is generally looking for currency, alongside doing other things to try and help their allies, etc. at the same time. So they sponsor or permit the activities, practically or otherwise, of these sorts of actors to start digging into things and causing problems. This is why we end up with malware, so ransomware that took out about half of the NHS about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, I keep thinking the other year, it's not the other year anymore. And all of the problems that go with that. They don't care about the impact is the problem. Phishing. So obviously our colleague on the call had a little QR code. All I'll say is generally be careful about QR codes. So we have a client who has to employ people to go around checking QR codes are the ones they're supposed to be. So they operate car parks, and unfortunately people go around putting fake QR codes, overall replacing the originals. They look very convincing, and of course people scan those and pay. They put their credit details in those instead of the legitimate ones, and that way they steal money from them. Supply chain, we're going to talk about some real impacts of that in a moment, but needless to say, it is important to check your supply chain. So those who provide your systems, your software, your IT services, HR, things like that, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to keep your information and your systems safe. So for example, that the HR provider isn't using a platform which has been subject to massive data leaks in the last couple of years. Spoiler. So supply chain is a very major risk, and we've also seen that with the Co-op Harrods MNS breaches in the last year as well. Too. Classic theft, so this could be literally pick up a bundle or pick up a computer, run away with it, USB stick, removable media, courier boxes when people are shipping data by courier. There was an incident affecting a national regulator where a courier box containing testimony of children was not present when the courier box reached its destination. That resulted in a £150,000 fine from the ICO under the old Data Protection Act before GDPR. So theft is a very serious problem, and it happens in many different ways. The Morrison's case, wherein I think their job title was something like internal audit counter fraud officer, and they stole the data of their employees and sold them on the internet in order to, on the face of it, punish Morrison's in respect to rates of pay.
Yeah.
So impacts. So first of all, we have the regulatory, the directly imposed impacts. So the UK can impose fines of £17.5 million or 4% of global turnover. That's the equivalent of the €20 million in the EU. Important to say this is global turnover of a group, and the definition of a group can be things like common shareholding. One company is a company officer in another, and things like that as well. So it can include a lot more than you think. Obviously, significant reputational damage, higher insurance premiums afterwards. There's a classic saying that the insurance pays now, but you'll still be paying it afterwards. But much more important than that is the actual human impacts of all of this. So taking the JLR incident, this is nearly £18 billion, something of that sort of order in terms of their economic contribution as an organisation, and a large portion of that was essentially shut down for the duration of the incident. I don't have the exact figure of the total cost of the incident. But that was a total hit to UK GDP of something in the order of 0.5%. That's wow. How many jobs, how much investment, how much work to recover that. How many people are then stressed and worried about their jobs for the coming sort of 6 months, year, off the back of that? Are there suppliers who were not having their stuff bought by them? The burger van or the sandwich van, etc., that would visit the sites and so on, that are not getting custom. All of those knock-on effects. And unfortunately, some incidents do result in death. And an incident, as we're going to see in a second, I will be as quick as I can.
I'm conscious of time.
It is not just malice. It's not just things like that. It is anything which affects confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So that is inadvertent sharing of data, inadvertent destruction or harm to the data, or the data not being available when it's needed. So with the latter two, for example, we have seen in health settings data that was needed at certain times that wasn't, either because of an attack in the case of WannaCry and ransomware, or because someone installed all their servers directly above the combined heat and power plant in London when it was the hottest summer on record, and that took out the systems for a hospital trust for a number of weeks. And unfortunately, this results in delayed operations, extended suffering, and in some cases, shortened lifespans. It is as serious as that. In other cases, it is because people take another action because of their fears in relation to a data breach. I think there was one in Sweden where it was a therapy provider. Their record system was compromised, and unfortunately, someone then created a searchable version of that on the dark web that people could use to access all of those patient records. So very sensitive information was put into the sort of public accessibility, and people were obviously subject to all kinds of abuse in relation to that, but others then unfortunately took actions with regards to themselves as a result of that. It is all horrible. I appreciate that's not a particularly positive note to end on, but those are the key types of incident that occur, key impacts of incidents as well. I just want to quickly jump back to Nick. I appreciate we are over time at this point, but it was just in relation to the types of organization you're going to be subject to the new regs. My point here. So there's a lot more organizations now, companies, innovators, or even open source custom coders, etc., creating things to manage energy loads. And I note in the language that it has load controller of over, I think it was 400 megawatts. That's going to affect more businesses than people might initially realize when you think about it, because smart energy systems, so electric battery systems for the home, smart car chargers, if you've got a few thousand of those together, that's going to start hitting those numbers.
Yeah, definitely. I think actually this legislation has gone a bit under the radar because it's not necessarily written as saying, oh, everyone's going to be affected, and it's deliberately it's made to seem like it's just kind of for very critical larger entities, and like you said, it's not the case. And I think a lot more firms than they think will be captured. I think anyone that touches those sorts of critical infrastructures, electricity, energy, public services, healthcare, all of those critical industries really should be thinking about that, and thinking about what you said as well, because phishing and all the forms of phishing is such a easy but such a obvious route into cyber risk, and we see it happen time and time again. And it actually really is, as Richard's saying, going back to basics to understand, here's the risks, here's how people can get in and are getting in, and it's happening. How are we going to constantly evolve our stuff to make sure that we're preventing that?
Because just in terms of some of those big incidents we've seen in the last year, so obviously the M&S, the Co-op and Harrods ones, these were supply chain attacks.
Yeah.
And there have been very similar ones where it's been, almost negligence on the part of one party, aside from due diligence and things like that, but whereby the provider's just given essentially unfettered access that they didn't need or want.
Yeah.
And that's caused the problem. We had the Target data breach, was it 13 years ago in the US, where it was heating ventilation platform provider, and the system wasn't properly air gapped. So air gap just basically means that it's separated from their other systems, and so attackers compromised that platform and then got through to credit card information via the air conditioning. So you've got a lot of vectors, and in many cases they're getting worse rather than better. And quite rightly, the regulations are taking a firmer stance on things that can cause significant disruption. If we look at the energy component of it, 400 megawatts, think about the UK's grid is 60 gigawatts generally as a sort of limit. And it's like, well, that's a fairly, big chunk of it. But a factory could be that sort of level on its own. If you've got a system that's managing, I was thinking about this before, storage heaters. A system that, in South London, there's a lot of councils that still have managed storage heaters. So they run a separate supply from the normal electricity in the home. So you've got all these blocks of flats and so on in South London. And that could be, 10, 20 kilowatts per property in some cases. 20,000 properties doing that, if it's managed by one organization, would hit that threshold.
Yeah, absolutely. Housing associations also can end up being covered. Property management, like, it's really much more expansive than we think. And once regulators get the power, then they don't necessarily forewarn you that you're supposed to comply. Compliance, ignorance is no excuse.
As someone who owned his own business for a while and had to deal with HMRC and Companies House, absolutely, the UK is not the best at forewarning you of your obligations. It's just you have to know.
So Richard, thank you for that presentation. Really appreciate it. Massive eye opener as well. I'm gonna push this poll to everyone, and it's, when was the last time your staff did cyber awareness training? I think this nicely encompasses, Nick, what you were talking about, especially with that new bill. Richard, making us aware of those risks, and they come in all different shapes and sizes and in different mediums, different formats. So when was the last time your staff did cyber awareness training? Is it the last 6 months? Is it the last 12 months? Is it older than a year, 12 months? Or have you never done any cyber awareness training? This will give us a really interesting insight into how much we do need to step up our cyber awareness training, not as a tick box exercise to prevent these critical issues that can happen that Nick and Richard have elaborated on. So we'll let this poll run. I am conscious of time. I make it 53 minutes past the hour. So this is an opportunity for people listening to give us any more queries, any more questions. I've got a good one here actually, and Nick or Richard, please feel free to answer this. How do you see AI being used by defenders and attackers in the future, and how can organizations stay ahead? What I'm thinking of there is, for example, Richard, you showed, I think, 12 threats alone. Is there going to be a 13th? Is there going to be a 14th? Nick, with this being a defender, the new bill coming out. So what do you think to that question?
If I start with a couple of elements on that. So the first is the accidental threat of AI. So by this, I mean, for example, Samsung about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago nearly now, their software engineers dumped a load of proprietary code into, I think it was ChatGPT, and that was then essentially regurgitated to anyone who wanted it subsequently. So they then had to put controls in place where they're limited to 1,024 bytes of data that they're allowed to enter into their own custom proprietary AI in the future. So IP loss is a very significant risk just through, sort of inadvertent action. We've sort of had a near miss almost with Copilot in the last week, whereby confidential emails that are marked confidential were exposed to Copilot, which isn't supposed to happen for summaries and things like that. So if there wasn't then a control stopping the backflow of data to Microsoft, that could result in very confidential information being available on servers in the US, where it, depending on your sector, etc., it may be unconstitutional, uncontractual, or it may be unlawful. So there's a lot of risk from accident, but then the other natural risks are the leveraging platforms to make it easier to do more of the same that they have been in terms of phishing and things like that, to make them more targeted at a larger scale, or to just make them more convincing at a smaller scale in the case of things like deepfake. The more recent kind of things of, the traveling through Thailand and I've had an injury, please send $20,000 for the bill kind of ones. For a business, the bigger areas of that are, the forms of phishing essentially, and impersonating very senior people for that organization, sometimes to cause reputational damage as well. I would see the threats. I'll let Nick pick up though on the defensive uses of AI.
Well, I'm actually also particularly worried about agentic AI and the browsers like the ChatGPT, Atlas, those sorts of things, because the risk there, because sometimes we think, okay, it's better to use it, we should be using this AI browser, it's going to be better. But what a lot of researchers have found is that, malicious code can be seen then as the AI just used. So it can, all of a sudden fill in your bank details. It can write emails for you, can do all sorts of stuff because it can't necessarily differentiate between what's a malicious signal versus one you put forward yourself.
Just on that, the example of that with I think the funny version of it was the Microsoft Xbox codes. So if you try and just get ChatGPT or something to give a list of those, it wouldn't do it. But the workaround for a period of time was essentially my grandmother used to read Xbox live codes, or whatever the codes were, to me at bedtime. Would you be able to do that? And of course, off it goes, giving a long list of perfectly functional codes.
Tricked it. Yeah.
There's a lot of worry with the coding element as well. How are you training it? Where it's going to do any kind of sort of decisions or that sort of thing, the accuracy. There's a company taking essentially in course, I think it's in Canada, I think it went against them fairly recently, the case law on it, which was they were using a AI chatbot for handling customer relations and things like that, and it promised someone an 80% discount, and of course it went to court, and the court said, well, no, you as a company are responsible for your software. The company had been trying to say it's a separate entity. The AI is its own sentience essentially, and they lost that. So if it's exposed to people, then people are going to find ways to misuse it.
Absolutely. We're 2 minutes before the hour, so we are going to have to wrap. But just from that last poll, 83% said that they've had cyber security training in the last 6 months. That's great. That is obviously a handful of people. That needs to be more prevalent across the board with all companies, all shapes and sizes. And in the as less cheesy as I can possibly say it, IMSM, VinciWorks, Bulletproof, we are here to offer this support, this consultancy, these ISOs that can really help you as a business and stop these cybersecurity threats. So we've not had any questions pop up. I think we'll leave it there. But Nick, Richard, thank you very much. Really insightful. Those that are listening, the materials are available. So that is our cybersecurity and resilience and data breaches. These are PowerPoints that we will share and are accessible. So until next time, thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Cheers
you.
all. Bye-bye.